I'm not sure if Sheldon Keefe has reached his breaking point, if the rules of the code of conduct of the organization have changed, or if he's just desperately trying anything for something here to change. But nonetheless, Sheldon Keefe has called out this Leafs team yet again. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down Sheldon Keefe calling out this Leafs team yet again this season. And the reason I think it's so surprising to people is because this is not something that he's normally done. And when he did it the one time before, he had to go out into the media and walk back his comments. If you remember back to last season, this Leafs team had an atrocious start to the point where everyone was wondering, could Sheldon Keefe's job be on the line? He goes out into the media, he calls out the star players, he specifically kind of brings up Mitch Marner, his lack of level of play to start last season, and then next thing you know, he's going out into the media basically saying, I shouldn't have said that, that was an accident, my bad, whatever. I don't know if this was an organizational thing, I don't know if this was responding to Mitch Marner before and saying, okay, yeah, I can't do it to you, or they don't want me to do this. I don't know if this was never in him. I don't know if this isn't him now, but nonetheless, this is the second time in about a month span that Sheldon Keefe has called out the team. He's sat players. He's publicly made it known he's not happy with guys, their level of play, and what's been going on within this organization. And it feels like this is the right thing that should be happening, but it feels like it's too little too late. The reality is, when you're talking about Sheldon Keefe and the way that this organization has been run for the last 7 years, the most common theme of this team has been they are soft, the coaching staff is soft, the way that everything is operated is soft, the GM brings in soft players, everyone here is soft. The overarching theme of this Maple Leafs team from the outside in has always been this soft, coddled culture. This idea that no one can do any wrong, there's no accountability that's going to be held. And it's always just felt like the inmates run the asylum. Hence why when it gets to playoff time, it feels like everyone kind of looks at this team and says like, oh yeah, they could do something, but they probably won't because they're soft and they don't play the right way. And they've never been coached into this hard-nosed mentality like a Tampa Bay or Washington when they won, or St. Louis when they won, or Vegas last year, where you look at these teams and you say, okay, the guy that was in there holds people accountable. If you don't play up to the standard that they expect you to as a Las Vegas Golden Knight or a Boston Bruin or Tampa Bay Lightning or Florida Panther player, whatever it is, you look at those teams around the league, those players are all held to a certain standard. And if they don't play a certain way, they don't buy into the system, they don't stick up for their teammates, whatever it is, you're going to start to see them be held accountable for their actions. They have consequences. The Leafs team for basically 7 years now, I guess maybe you could eliminate some of it because when Babcock was here, that some of it existed. But that being said, when I'm even referring to those years, Babcock would do it, and then there would be outrage. Why are you sitting Mitch Marner? Why are you sitting William Nylander? Why are you taking ice time away? Why are you doing all this to these guys? Well, you're trying to teach them how to be NHL players. You can't just hold everyone's hand and say, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about not giving a shit about defense. It's okay because you're Mitch Marner and William Nylander and Austin Matthews and John Tavares, and it'll be fine. And we're all going to hold your hands and sing Ring Around the Rosie and be happy. That's just not how the NHL works. And if that's how you want to play in the NHL, that's one thing. But the reality is, that's not how you're going to play in the NHL if you're going to have success. And if you're going to have these long careers where you make long, tough Stanley Cup playoff pushes, you win Stanley Cups, you win Conn Smythe, whatever. If that's who you want to be, then you've got to take your level of play, your mindset, your attitude to a different level. The one example I constantly bring up is what happened in Washington when Barry Trotz got there. Whether or not you agree with his coaching style and the fact that they butted heads with Alex Ovechkin and Backstrom and Kuznetsov, it worked. And they got a Stanley Cup. He got there and he basically said, you're going to play defense, you're going to block shots, and you're going to hit guys. And if you're not, I don't really give a shit how many goals you can or cannot score or you think you can score, because you're going to be sitting your ass on the bench. Because that's not all it takes to win a hockey game. It's very important. You need to score more goals than the other team, but that's not all it takes. So we see Sheldon Keefe come out in the media, and this has kind of been a theme for this Leafs team over the last little while. Well, especially when you look at why do they break down? Oh, well, they have pretty good underlying numbers defensively. They're not terrible defensively. They've got so much star power. Well, this would be why. Sheldon Keefe talking about the goal that scored last night by McLean on the Islanders. He scores his first NHL goal. Beautiful goal by him, by the way. Kudos to him. Comes out of the box. But this is where the problem is for the Leafs. He comes out of the box completely unrecognized. Not a single guy on the ice has any idea that he's there. No one from the bench is calling that this guy's coming out of the box. He gets a breakaway pass, goes down, makes a disgusting move on Samsonov. Again, good for him. That's a pretty sick way to score your first NHL goal. But goes in, walks in, scores. As Sheldon Keefe brings up, this is the National Hockey League. That's Pee-wee stuff when he was asked about that play. And he's right. This Leafs team has a tendency to just fall asleep. They have a tendency to just go into this Pee-wee hockey mode where they say they either don't care, they're not aware, they just lull themselves into whatever. It's a regular season game. And this has been an ongoing theme. As far as Sheldon Keefe calling out this Leafs team, look, I'm happy that he's done it. I'm happy he's starting to do this now because I think this is a piece of this team that's been missing over the last little while is some level of accountability, especially for your high-end players. I don't care about sitting David Kampf or Ryan Reeves in the press box, truly, but it's more like, is Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares, Morgan Riley going to be held accountable for stupid plays or not back-checking or bad turnovers in the defensive zone? Traditionally, it's not been the case. And then on top of that, you've never really seen Sheldon Keefe be outspoken in the media about what's going on out on the ice. He's always one to be like, oh, well, we lost 5-0 to the Coyotes, but it's okay because I took positives away. Well, that's fine, but at the same time, you can also call out your team for playing like garbage. That's acceptable, Sheldon. So now here we are, finally, year 8 of these guys. We're seeing guys get benched. We're seeing guys lose minutes. We're seeing guys get taken off of the power play. And then we're seeing public accountability. This is all fine and dandy. I am happy that this is going on as just someone who's watching this team, someone who thinks that this is what's needed to be happening within the organization for the last little while. But the reality is, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, my thought on it, it feels it's a little bit too little too late. Jeez, couldn't get that one out. Too little, too late for this Leafs team. Part of the problem is just you've had this guy here for so long. Now he's implementing this message. Whether it's his choice that he was not doing it before and he's going to do it now, or the organization's, whatever. To have a guy all of a sudden start to do this, it could either really work or it could really go the opposite way. And what I mean by that is if it works, they look at this guy and they say, holy shit, he's reaching his breaking point. He's hitting the point where he can't deal with this anymore and we're getting called out. He feels like he's going to lose his job, whatever it may be. And then they pick up their pace of play and they start to turn things around. And they can really, really buy in because they say, oh my God, we've never seen him like this before. On the flip side, and this is the part where I don't know, because we're not in the room with those guys. We don't necessarily know the environment. We don't know what they think of him. None of that. We don't know. They could be looking at Sheldon Keefe and say, this is a fraud. He's a phony. This is not who he is. This is not how he acts. This is not how he treats us. So I'm sick of this. I don't care to listen to this fake outrage that he's bringing into the media and talking about on a daily basis now because he's a fraud. And he's faking it, and then they tune him out. You hope that's not the case, but it kind of just feels like once you've reached this point where you're so far in with these guys, and you're so far in with this coach, and this organization, and this group of guys that's been this nucleus of this team, that it feels like it's just, as I said, too little too late. I'm happy the call-out is happening. I think that this is something that needs to happen anyways. It just feels weird, to be honest, that it's coming from Sheldon Keefe and not some new coach stepping in, because this is a new thing for him and he's been here for a few years. Those are my thoughts on him calling this team out. I think it's the right thing to do, truly. I just don't know how effective the message is going to be, is effectively my point on all of this. I think that this is something that's needed to happen for this team to get over the hump, but at this point, it just might not be coming from the right guy. So Leafs fans, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Keefe calling out this team, if it's deserved, if you liked him doing it, and if you agree that it's maybe too little too late, or if you disagree and think, you know what, this is something that they might respond to and might actually be good for them. I'm looking forward to reading all of those. But while you're at it, hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel, turn on notifications. We do appreciate all the support here, but let's get this thing up to 2,500 subscribers by the playoffs. We just hit about 1,300 here now. Let's get it up to 2,500 by the playoff time. A couple months to go ahead of that. I'm looking forward to continuing to build this. Thank you to everyone who watched the video today. Can't wait to read your comments. And as always, keep believing.